What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the PlayStation 5 because it seems like these new leaks that just came out over the course of the weekend point to the fact that this may be a very strong machine, but I do hope that it's not too expensive. So in case you missed it, over the course of the last couple months, we've been getting a ton of leaks all around the PlayStation 5 and what Sony's been secretly up to, in the form of people have been digging through the code of the PlayStation Store and discovered all these extra tabs that seem to hint to the fact that we're about to be able to pre-order PlayStation 5 games. The fact that Sony themselves has talked about basically disappearing from the spotlight for most of 2019, only to do a giant mysterious reveal at the very end of the year. Or even things like, we have heard so many people talking about the fact that there is some sort of prototype PlayStation 5 floating around, and people are already developing games for it. That is confirmed. There are LinkedIn profiles of people talking about, in their work experience tab, having done games for the PlayStation 5. So we know that this thing is very likely coming right over the horizon. But what happened this weekend is something else. A chip got leaked. Now, not the entire chip, but the chip name. Now, that sounds like a very tiny detail, something that isn't super giant news, but in fact it is. To explain why though, I actually needed to hire one of my buddies who's a great hacker, because he can explain what exactly the name of a chip can mean and why this is some monumentally massive news, even if you don't normally understand it. Take it away, hacker. Hey there folks, this is DreamcastGuy, DCG's friend who's really good at cracking code. You can tell I'm a real hacker because I'm sitting in a dark room with sunglasses on for some reason. DreamcastGuy asked me to jump into his video today to try and explain what the heck is going on with this microchip, because many people on the internet seem to be severely confused as to how the heck we're able to figure out just what this system is going to do simply by seeing the name of its chip. Well, there's actually a lot of very cool hidden information inside the name of a lot of different pieces of hardware. Like for this one, it is an AMD chip and it has a very long, very confusing looking name, but by breaking it down into specific portions, we actually know how much power it's going to have, when it's being produced, and possibly things like how expensive it might be. This is a custom silicon chip being produced by AMD, which means that it's going to be very powerful, and it seems like this is going to be a big leap above the PlayStation 4. It seems like the PlayStation 5, a lot of the rumors being about it being very VR focused, appear to be true. I mean, just an educated guess by looking at this, it seems like it's going to have about 8.1 teraflops of power within it, which means that this is going to be something that looks very, very good. But more specifically than that, it seems like this could have a good thread count. It seems like this is something that could try and basically cut all load times to shreds, which means that this is really opening up a lot of potential for the PlayStation 5 being a powerhouse. I just want to say, there are people who are curious, how do we know this specifically is actually a PlayStation 5 chip and not an Xbox 2 chip? And it's because we've already seen Sony talking about how they're going back to AMD, and also there is some coding in this that hints that this is the 6th big project by Sony. There's actually a part of the product code that says how many times they've worked with Sony before, and since this is the 6th one, we know that this is definitely something beyond the PlayStation 4 Pro. I really hope this was able to break things down a little bit for you, because it is a lot of data to try and process. Even me, master hacker extraordinaire, gets a little bit confused whenever stuff is just a series of gibberish. Alright, let's just jump back to DreamcastGuy. So as you can see, this is actually a pretty juicy piece of news, and now has a lot of people trying to get a better freaking guess as to just how good this console is going to be, and also how good the graphics are going to be. Because right now, my biggest concern when it comes to the PlayStation 5 is its launch lineup. I want to see some big games that are going to melt my eyeballs. But I am very curious as to how they're going to look and how they're going to run. I want stuff to be be as high resolution as possible and to have good frame rates. So many games, especially in the early PS4 era, it seemed like they had to make a lot of compromises, but we're really entering a new time period when it comes to console development. Stuff is getting cheaper, stuff is getting stronger, and it seems like developers themselves are getting just a lot better at making big games that actually function. Just look at the freaking gameplay of God of War. That is a masterpiece that has graphics that seem impossible for the PlayStation, but they managed to pull it off. What are they going to be doing 2 years or 3 years into the PlayStation 5's life cycle? Well, according to this leaked AMD stuff, it makes it seem like they could be doing it close to photorealistic graphics. Maybe they'll be able to finally just push the limits of something like VR into an all-new realm. But what does that mean for price? That is where a little bit of concern is floating around. There's a big group of very tech-minded people right now who are starting to sit back and sort of speculate as to how expensive this thing can really turn out to be. Because while these leaks are fantastic and really sort of created a crystal ball for us to guess the future, they're also something that's not cheap. I am a little bit worried at some of the reports thinking that this could be a $500 console. This is something that's been going around for a while now, but never from Sony. I have not seen a single leak of Sony even trying to guess the price. I would actually say that perhaps 100% with certainty, Sony probably does not have a price in mind for the PlayStation 5 as we speak. They're probably still trying to deliberate on how cheap they can make this console and how low they can get the price, because obviously they want to sell it as fast as possible. But with this hardware, if it does have an enormous amount of teraflops and just some raw graphical horsepower in it, they are obviously going to need a bigger price tag to try and match that. So my concern really comes down to the fact that I want to make sure that the PlayStation 5's launch can be ultra incredible. And I think it comes down to having good games to show off, obviously, some really good hardware that is very sturdy, because I know that there were some complaints back when the PlayStation 4 came out that it wasn't as impressive as people wanted. But my biggest thought is, how are they going to market this? You need to make sure that you get your messaging clear right away that this is supposed to be a new generation of gaming. And I think a way to do that is to show people that this is going to finally be an all-in-one box. The AMD processor in general is very strong, and I think that's pretty apparent just by looking at the graphics of any PlayStation 4 game. AMD processors are super good, especially when it's a custom chip. But this needs to be better than that. This needs to be ultra sturdy. And I think a way you can try and inspire consumer confidence is by showing the entire breadth of what you plan on doing with it. Something that I think that Sony's a little bit weird about is they're really bizarre about how they like to reveal stuff. Like when they showed off the PlayStation Vita, it was almost just a tiny tease that didn't really show how amazing that thing could be. Or even the PSP. The PSP was kind of just shown as a crisis core device, and a lot of people were a bit lost as to how its functionality would actually work in the grand scheme of things. When you come out with the PlayStation 5 reveal, probably in the next 8 months, you need to come out on stage and show people a little bit of VR, a little bit of backwards compatibility, because I freaking know you're doing it. We saw the freaking patents. You guys are definitely working on backwards compatibility secretly right this second. And the third thing you need to show is games. Exclusive PlayStation 5 games that people have already been asking for. Maybe reboot Onimusha. Do something like give us a huge extended long trailer for the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Because at this point, I think it's pretty obvious that the Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably going to be cross-platform. It's going to be on both. But also, give us a bunch of new games. Stuff like Ghost of Tsushima is so epic because it is a great game that we didn't know we wanted. A samurai slasher in feudal Japan that's super epic with combat that's sort of like Arkham Asylum. Yes. That is what the fans want to eat up. The PlayStation 5 is really setting the stage, but I've also seen some people starting to grumble that they're nervous. If this does not have all the features they want, a lot of people are saying that they're going to stick with the PlayStation 4 as long as they can. You want a strong launch. We all want you to come out of the gate with a bang bang. But here's where the real battlefield is laid down. If Microsoft is able to get the edge when it comes to this marketing, it's going to be a very nasty and very long battle. But either way, I think that 2019 is going to be insane. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Also, I'm going to be reading all these comments very in depth because I actually want to know your tech opinions. I actually know that a lot of the people who watch my videos are extremely intelligent. You guys are way smarter than I am. So please, if there's any error I made when I was trying to go through all the hardware specs, please correct me. I would actually love to be further educated on the PlayStation 5 because right now, all these leaks are so freaking cool. I really just want to learn more about it. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.